Well, welcome to day 3 of our Be Creative Workshop Spring 2024. So I hope you have been having as much fun as I have creating these spring themed paintings, mixed media paintings, and I hope that you have discovered that your artistic spirit is so very important to your well-being. It's so important to nurture it and take time to make your art, play with your art supplies, explore new ones, and share what you make in our beautiful Be Creative community, because creativity is contagious. Catch the vibe. As I always love to say, it's the truth. So let's dive in. Okay, so what I have created here is just a little preview template like I've done before. We're going to do some butterflies and bees, and then I hope to have some of the flowers that we created incorporated with the butterflies and the bees. I've chosen a palette. Now, you will note that the same primary colors that I've used on the last 2 paintings are what I'm using again here. And I hope that you're realizing how much mileage you can get out of just the 3 primaries. So you don't have to break the bank with art supplies when you're getting started. And it's also kind of fun to work, you know how they say less is more. Well, by combining your primaries, you get your secondaries, and then you can, mix those up and get your, as they call it, tertiary colors. And they have, because they're all coming from the same primary palette, they're going to have a nice harmony running through them, and it's going to look so cohesive and lovely as a palette. So I've got the red, I created an orange, a yellow, a lovely little green, and a purple or a violet. Here is the butterfly and the bee. This is how they end up looking. Now I did a very cool step-by-step butterfly here for you that I learned from Diane Anton's YouTube channel. She is an amazing watercolor artist, and I learned how to draw these from her. So I'm just going to show you. You draw these arcs, and then you're going to create the wings, and you don't have to worry that they're mirroring each other. Look at this, is just going to even overlap. Just sketch in very easily, kind of keep your pencil loose as you're sketching them out. And there you have your wings. So you can do it again a couple more times, just trace over what you've already done, kind of get the feel. And I think it looks a little more natural when they're not perfectly matched. Gives it a little vibration. The way they are in nature, they're always moving. And you just make a nice slim little long oval body in between, and add some antenna. Okay, get the idea. And you can add some little veins, because when you do the watercolor wash, it's sort of a translucent rather than transparent wash, so it'll cover it up, but you'll still see some of these veins if you're going for more realism, but otherwise you can just do straight up color. So here again, you just see the steps, the arcs, then closing up, bottom half of the wing, kind of pulling out and up, make a little lacy edge, and just bring it in. You can draw just, a bunch of these on your paper just to practice, get the feel of it, but you draw your butterflies how you want to draw them, okay? These are suggestions all the way through this workshop in order to keep you from getting stuck. But I would just love to know that you understand the choices are all up to you. Run with what feels right and what makes you happy while you're creating. And then same down here, just another little practice. Like I could just leave it like that and I wouldn't need to even, I don't need to add veins. Sometimes when you steer clear of a lot of details, it comes out even better than with all the details. I like more whimsical, impressionistic art, so that's the path I choose when I'm creating. Okay, so let's move on to the bee. A little closer. Here we go, because these guys are tiny. Okay, so it's almost like a caterpillar, like a very chunky caterpillar, but they're ovals stacked on each other. So a small one for the head, then another one that fits, the head just sort of fits into it, and again another one all the way down to like 5 sections. And there you have the body, and then a nice little reflection for the eye you can leave. Very dainty, delicate antenna, and then the wings, they're quite transparent, and because they are going to be, you know, buzzing around, they kind of vibrate. And then just add little V's for the feet. And you can see I've done another one down here. I like to do warm-ups, get you in the zone, and I think it helps you loosen up rather than just going for your finished piece. But it's all about the process, isn't it? Process is what we love. It's where we learn. It's where happy accidents occur. Things that you might have thought were a mess up, they turn into something really wonderful and beautiful. So stay open. All right, so enough of the practice. Same supplies, some paints, place to put your paints. You may want to pull out some of your pencils and pens, have them ready to go. A couple jars of water, some music, a fizzy or a warm beverage, and light a candle. This space is your place to unlock your creativity. Let's begin. Alrighty, so let's grab our brushes, some water, some of our primary colors, the red, the yellow, the blue. Keep our mixed media handy, some watercolor, colored pencils. They can be regular colored pencils, some micron pens, any kind of ink pen that doesn't bleed when it gets wet. Maybe a Sharpie marker. If you like the Posca markers, they're always fun. The sky is the limit. These are your opportunities to play with your art supplies. Keep this guide is, in the video, you can always skip back and have a look at it. Again, our color palette made from our primary colors. And we'll begin creating our composition using our butterflies and our bees. Very springy. So now I'm going to just start placing these butterflies that we practiced onto our watercolor paper. And because we've warmed up, feeling a little more confident now, creating the wings. the two lower parts. And now I'm going to carry out just a little bit in one direction, a tiny point, and ruffle it down and join it with that bottom section of the wing. Same on the other side. And I'm keeping it loosey-goosey. I'm not worried about mirroring or making everything super perfect. I like a little more organic shapes anyway. And then I'm adding a skinny oval for the body and some thin antenna. So remember, it's kind of cool to think in shapes. That way you don't get tripped up on all the scary little details that can sometimes chase us away from attempting to draw something like a butterfly. So if you just see it as in, like these guys look like triangles, right? Just think shapes. And I'm going to do the same thing for these top wings, making this butterfly smaller. It's nice to have variation in size. Gives more interest to your composition. And I'm just using a mechanical pencil. You can use any kind of pencil you have handy when you're sketching in your butterflies. And let's put one round about here. You can just eyeball where you want things to be laid out. And I bet you're starting to feel really, really good about your butterflies. Nothing like a little elbow grease to build confidence in whatever skill we're trying to achieve. Okay, I think maybe one more. Let's pop one more down on the lower left. Like magic, that one's there, all in the editing. And I'm going to add another one right about here. These butterflies are about to have a party, a garden party. That's a good old song. All right, let's make some bees. Remember, they're like little lumpy caterpillars. And, you know, bees are kind of fuzzy, so when we get towards the end, we can add some texture to their little bodies so they look fluffy, like this one. Yeah, he's so tiny. We're going to zoom in here, have a look. You could really just draw one oval, but I don't know. There's something about the sectioning that will kind of help you when you go to paint in the yellow and black body. And then little kind of like V's. I'm kind of going crazy seeing shapes and everything, but yeah, they're very dainty, these little legs. They're so light. And same with the wings. They're going to be buzzing, so they'll be vibrating, and you're going to want to maybe make the lines a little shaky so you get that energy that these busy bees have. And I'll have another one hanging out with his buddy, gathering pollen to make some honey. And that little space for some reflective eye. They always look so shiny and iridescent in the sunlight. All right. Bee friends, get it? And I'll add one more up above the butterflies. And they're all so happy it's spring. Enjoying their garden party. It's kind of fun to see how what you start to make with your art can take on a life of its own, and you almost feel like you've got some new friends, which is awesome. And I'm doing some gestural flowers down here. I was thinking clover. You can really draw any flower that you like. You can even draw the tulips or the daffodils that we practiced on our prior lessons. They can be just some kind of flower that you imagine. Like I always say, keep your options open and let your inner child out to play. Try not to edit too much, try not to judge, and just make whatever your little heart desires and have fun. All right, so we've got our butterflies and bees penciled in, and we can start to prepare to paint and add some mixed media. So I'm going to have my rinse water and my color water so I keep things from getting muddy. Always remember it's good to change out your water as you're working. And we'll use wet on wet, so I'm going to apply the water into the wings. And then I'm going to pick up some of the yellow and mix in some of the red. Create our orange. And I'll go up into the corner of the wing and let the paint just flow into that wet on wet. Working around each wing and letting those little blooms of color flow into the wing. And then adding a little bit of more diluted orange here. Wet on wet again. So the wet on wet is really looking beautiful on these butterfly wings. Love how the colors kind of are playing against each other, looking very magical and whimsical in this butterfly bumblebee garden. Just gonna add some more color to these littler butterflies now. Still using wet on wet. One more. And we'll go with some of a red pigment and using wet on wet again. And you can always work back into this later after it dries, and you can increase the intensity of your color. That's why it's fun to have a lot of different elements on a painting, because you can keep moving around it and letting things dry. And while those are drying, you can work on some of the other elements. So go ahead and use a really deep blue. I'm not using any black right now, so I've just gone with a more intense blue, and we're gonna use it on all of the bodies of the butterflies. And sort of a dashed line, giving some little spaces. So it looks like maybe there's some reflection of light rather than just a solid line. This happens sometimes. I love it. But it's gonna be fine. We roll with it. Gonna get real creative here and figure out how to rectify the little brush drop. So I'm gonna grab my brush and rinse it and then put some clean water on and dilute that mark that I made. And this could be a happy accident. We're gonna find out how this unfolds. So I'm working back in with a little more water and then dabbing it up with a paper towel. And then I'm just gonna leave it be while I kind of think about what I can do, what I can turn that into. Test my creativity and do a little improv on that mistake in a minute. So I'm whipping up a little more of the orange, adding a little more red this time. And now that these have dried just a little bit, I'm gonna go on the edges of the wings and play around with some of the details. Just doing what I think is pretty and what inspires me. I'm loving the red with the orange. You can play with all sorts of color combinations with these butterfly wings. So just take your time and enjoy the process. Don't be in any rush. Remember, you can always go back and pause the video. You can slow it down using the little gear in the lower right-hand corner. And you can click the speed that works for you by slowing it down or speeding it up. I'm just going to work right inside where the wings meet the body. Give it a little bit of a shadow. Let's work on this purple butterfly, giving it some fun details. And this is all going to be the groundwork for the next form of media that we are going to apply. So layer by layer, it becomes more interesting, more fun, more energetic. And this is really just a deeper purple. I added some more blue. And I'll come back in with a little more water on my brush and blend upwards so that becomes a lighter value. And moving in from the butterfly body, giving it a little bit of shadowy, highlighty effect. And rinse out your brush. Let's try some orange in here, just on the edges. So I'm having some fun layering these colors. Working up on that green butterfly with some of the blue, just on the edges of the wings. I really love the blue and the green. That's just a beautiful combination right there. So I'm sure by now you are really trusting yourself more. You're feeling more confident because you're getting more familiar with the techniques, and you're getting more playful with your color combinations, the way that you make your decisions. Hopefully you're feeling free and playful, loving what you are making, and having a lot of the benefits that come from spending time in a creative space that's getting into that flow state, and you're becoming more centered and more focused. You're losing track of time. All right, let's start giving our bees some life. So I'm taking the orange on the bottom part of the bee's body, and then I'll go a little brighter on the top with more yellow. Just kind of combining those two. And because the bees are busy gathering their pollen, they're vibrating, they're in motion. So I'm going to be more gestural, just like I am with the butterfly wings. I want to show movement and energy and life. So you can do a lot of that with the way you use your brush strokes. Kind of giving some fuzziness to the body. And again, I'm not using black. I'm just going very, very deep with the blue. Just a little white space left to catch that reflection of their eye. And we've got these ones to take care of on the bottom. They're a lot of fun to make. I really do enjoy the bees. So since I loaded my brush with that color, I'm just going to bop over and take care of this little guy. And then we'll add some brighter yellow on the top. Mixing up that dark blue and filling in his fuzzy little body. So I'm adding some water to the wings. I want to just make them seem very transparent. So I just took a tiny bit of blue that I had diluted even more with water because I want them to be see-through. See, there's just a hint of color. Allowing some of the white space to show through. And now I've dipped back into the deep blue. We're going to finish up this tiny little head. And I'm using my smallest brush. The very point of it seems to be doing the job. And I'm good with the little vibrational strokes I've got. I think it just gives these bees the energy that they naturally have. I could draw these guys all day. They're cute. Now you could use a pen. I know it may seem these kind of details would probably work very easily with the tip of a black marker. I'm just using this brush and it seems to be going quite well. And a little bit of highlights on the wings. Just little dashed lines, nothing solid because they're in movement. And let's give the clover some color. And just a wash. It's kind of fun to blend the colors using the wet on wet. So I'm laying down just a little bit of the red, very diluted. And then I'm going to come back in with some of that pale green and just let them kind of schmooze together. Letting the watercolor work its magic. And then finishing them off with their stems. Back to the blob. So what I'm going to do here is wet down the paper and then come back in with a blue wash and create a very vignette-y type of surrounding, suggesting maybe the blue sky behind these butterflies and bees. And I'm loving what happened there with my mistake. Woohoo! Celebrate your mistakes. They can be the birth of something lovely. So I'm going to carry that out again on this side and just probably work it around the bees and the butterflies in various spots. Just sort of randomly moving around. I can also pull up some of that pigment. After I lay it down, I can pull some of that pigment up with a paper towel. And that can add some more interesting texture and variation. Alrighty, let's move on to some other mediums. I'm using these watercolor pencils and they're by Derwent. I love them. They've got a nice pigment to them. You could use Prisma pencils or any colored pencil that you have. The nice thing with these ones is you can add water to them and they react like watercolor. So I'm just gonna pop back up here. I wanted a little bit more of that technique that I had started. And you're gonna see that, you know, you'll get ideas. You'll have a look at your painting and you're like, oh, it's more of this, or I need a little of that. And you just kind of keep working and experimenting and playing. So I'm giving some more value here with the colored pencil around the edges of the wings, kind of making them pop a little bit more. So the bigger butterflies, I'm giving more details, and the smaller ones will seem just a tad more in the background, leave them a little more blurred, if you will. Soft focus is probably a better way to say it. And we'll give these guys a little bit of fuzz on their body with the pencil. Added some of the veins to the butterfly wings. Now I grabbed an old toothbrush and I'm wetting it down, and I will demonstrate that you can also do a splatter technique with a toothbrush. I'm going to load up my wider brush and kind of put the paint onto the toothbrush this way. Have a little more control. And then you're going to flick it just across wherever you want this splatter technique to go. It's really coming together quite lovely. And I'm going to have some fun with the colored pencils again, suggesting some grasses at the bottom. Very free-flowing, very gestural. And then come back in with some more watercolor on my brush. Various thicks and thins. This is so much fun. Just some finishing touches. I can't wait to see your bee and butterfly garden. Please send me what you make, post it on my Facebook group page, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon.